So I actually found this place just randomly. I was actually gonna go fly my drone through a train bridge, but unfortunately the land to get to the train bridge is private property. Therefore, I don't want to have the cops call on me, because in this part they don't really have much to do. They do prosecute people for trespassing in this area at least. But luckily for me, I found this random bench in the middle of nowhere that I think is pretty cool, and an amazing view of the lake. Maybe I'll do my other video maybe I'll do my video elsewhere, because it's fucking freezing. Now, I don't plan on being a blogger for personal lifestyles or anything like that. I just wanted to do a couple of tips about whether or not you should go to a boot camp. So I just wanted to get out of the house because I've been coding a lot and studying. I just wanted to give you my perspective as to why I chose to go to a boot camp, and if you're interested in going in a boot camp, maybe my experience or my decision may help you. I'm not gonna tell you which boot camp to go to, but I am gonna tell you the one I'm going to. It's not an endorsement for them. I'm not being paid. I just want you to first talk about why I chose to go to a boot camp in regards to learning how to code. You know, why didn't I go to a community college? It's really hard to talk when your gnats are freezing to death. So all right, so I'm just gonna go back to my room. We lost light a lot faster than I was expecting. It is winter, so sunsets a lot early. I mean, right now it's like only 4 o'clock and we're losing light. I'm freezing, and I'm just gonna do the rest of this video from a nice, warm, comfortable chair. Well, alright, let's get back on track. Maybe for 2020 you decided to do a New Year's resolution, that you were going to start to code this year, that you were going to attend a boot camp or university, and I am 1 month into my boot camp. I wish I did it a lot earlier, and this is going to serve as an update for both my performance through the boot camp, which is 9 months long, and my experiences and why I chose to go to a boot camp, and my decision process for choosing my boot camp. Once again, I haven't really been asked by anyone to make this review, and I don't endorse anything or anyone. I'm just telling you my experience as to why I chose what I chose. So I wanted to learn how to program, and that was one of my New Year's resolution for last year. So I decided to just get serious towards the end of 2019 because I didn't see myself making any progress. So I tried going the self-taught route. Ever since 2017, I've been actually trying to do a little bit of self-taught. So I actually taught myself the basics for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I owe a huge thanks to FreeCodeCamp because their curriculum is pretty robust. And I actually learned a lot. And the great thing about online resources is that you can basically teach yourself. You don't have to pay money to anybody. You don't have to go to college to learn how to code. The reason that I chose to go to a boot camp is because I felt like I was on tutorial hell. I have contacts in the industry, so I ask for advice all the time. I always said, hey, what do I need to do to get to where you are? And the unfortunate thing is that everyone has a different path. A lot of the times they told me, just learn HTML, CSS, and as much vanilla JavaScript as you possibly can. So that's what I did. Most of the time I was just doing tutorials online for JavaScript. Just as much vanilla JavaScript as I possibly could. And then I tried learning a little bit of jQuery, And basically, every time I got past jQuery, I felt like I didn't know enough. So I kept going back because I wanted to know everything for certain. I wanted to know everything, so in case I ever got asked in an interview, how do you do this with vanilla JavaScript, that I was going to do a really good job. Unfortunately, I got stuck in tutorial hell. I always kept finishing, whatever JavaScript section, then coming back and redoing it, and the time was going by, and I had a career. I do have a bachelor's degree, but it's not in a related field. It's not a math or science field. It's criminal justice. I was working in that field, and I was doing a lot of overtime. I was working like 16 hours a day, and my commute was an hour and a half each way. So whenever I had to do a 16-hour day, add 3 hours to that, 19 hours basically, and I didn't even have 8 hours to sleep, let alone eat, do all the errands I had to do. So I really stressed out, and I actually ended up leaving. I stopped learning how to code for a good amount of time just because I was so sidetracked with my actual job. Then I got sick of it after a year of basically not knowing if I was going to work 8 hours or 16, because that's another thing. Where I worked, you were always scheduled for 8 hours, but you never knew if you were going to work 8 hours. There was always some BS going on, someone calling out, and we were always understaffed, and seniority issues where the senior personnel, they get to choose their vacation times at the worst possible moments, and it was really stressful. So I decided, I'm going to quit this job, and I'm just going to dedicate myself to self-learning. I was going to be self-taught, and this time I was going to do it for reals. So that happened at the end of January 2019. Then on February, I ended up returning to my home country of the Dominican Republic. I stayed with relatives there, and the whole point was that I was going to be a programmer on the side, or at least student to someone that I knew who was a programmer, and that I was going to shadow him, and I was going to do everything that I needed to do in order to be self-taught and get to the point that I wanted to be and become an actual developer. Oh boy, I had no structure at all. This person was always busy, always working, so he didn't really have time to tell me, hey, learn how to do this, learn how to do that. Sometimes he would give me assignments, things that he knew that I could do, and I would do them. But they're basic things, like, I don't know anything about the back end, and most of the things he does is related to the back end development. So a lot of the times I would just go in, sign into WordPress websites that he managed, and just update the plugins, do a scan, and that's what mostly happens. So I decided, I'm learning, so I can't say no. I learned how to use a couple tools in the back end, but on the other hand, I was actually studying, trying to be a full-time web developer, and I just didn't feel like I had the right path laid out in front of me. I know there are a lot of people that actually they're self-taught and they have good discipline and they learn exactly what they want to do. For me, I was really overwhelmed that there's so many things out there that you could learn, and not everyone uses the same technologies. Like, yeah, you could learn JavaScript, but what framework are you gonna specialize in? There's React, there's Angular, there's like a million different JavaScript frameworks that are not as popular, but they're there, and when you look for jobs, most of the time they use one of those rare frameworks or libraries. Then I ended up getting a job at a hotel while I was in the Dominican Republic. It was just really stressful at that time, so I just got a job at a hotel and just to make some money on the side because I was living off my savings. Then after that, I met one of the guests at the hotel at that time. He was like this cybersecurity expert. He's been on the field since the early 2000s. He actually was a contractor in Iraq, and he had to work server security. And he just said, hey, just do it. I know that you wanna be a developer, because I really talked to him a lot, and they just say, hey, just do it, man. Whatever it takes, just do it. So I decided that, okay, I need to come back to the United States, and I need to get serious, and I actually considered going to college, returning to college, even if it was just a community college. But I don't want to do IT. I wanted to do front-end software development, make applications. Then I saw an ad for Lambda School. Lambda School is the bootcamp that I currently attend. So Lambda apparently offers two programs. You have the full-time program, which is 9 months long. And then you have the part-time program that's 2 years long. I just spent all this time in the Dominican Republic not working. I mean, I was working, but I was making like $100 a week at best. That's not real money. That just went to food and stuff. So when I got to the United States, I automatically I started looking for educational facilities that would teach me the right path, that would lay everything in front of me. You have to do this, and that, and we're going to give you the resources to do it. Also, one of the things that I missed a lot was actually peer-to-peer communication, learning how to work on a team properly. Because when you're self-taught, you don't really work with other people. You're rarely seeing other people's codes, and you're barely collaborating on one project. So I ended up considering, after I saw the ad, I didn't jump on it right away. So it took me like 2 months to actually jump on the ad, because I was very skeptical of the program, and I thought about going onto a physical boot camp that was shorter, because 9 months seemed like a long time. I mean, I know that they're full stack development, and I was like, wait a minute, if I go to a boot camp, I want to get to be a developer right away. I don't want to be waiting 9 months in and then probably 6 months of job searching afterwards. So I consider going to a 3-month boot camp that's just 3 months front end or back end, and then try to get a job in 6 months. Unfortunately, where I live, that's not a possibility. I live in a place that's so rural that the nearest boot camp was actually New York City, which is 6 hours away. Plus, I would have to pay for an apartment wherever I stayed for those 3 months, and I would have to pay the boot camp up front. And there's no guarantee. There's absolutely no guarantee with any of these boot camps. Even Lambda, they don't really guarantee you anything. What Lambda does that attracted me was the income share agreement. Basically, you don't have to pay them until you find a job that pays over $50K or more. In this area where I live, $50K is a great salary. It's actually more than what I was making at my other job, working 16-hour days, and I was working for the state, and I was getting paid the overtime, and I still didn't reach $50K, which is ridiculous. So I consider it, and I was like, okay, they have an income share agreement. You pay 17% once you reach that $50,000 goal. And then you make 24 payments. So basically, over a span of 5 years, if you're making over $50K, you have to make 24 payments of 17% of your salary. And that just seemed pretty good, because hey, I'm so desperate at this point that I can't afford to go to a city to do an actual in-person boot camp. 9 months seemed like it was a long time, but it was worth it. I signed up, I applied, and I got in. They accepted me, and they basically send you a little pre-course in order to prepare to start the course. Basically, even though Lambda School is 9 months long as opposed to 3 months, it doesn't mean that you have more time to work on something. Lambda School's curriculum, as of right now that I look at it, you can go on their website and see. You're basically moving from one thing to another. The only difference is that other boot camps, they focus either on the front end or the back end. And I applied for the full stack web development. So you're going to learn front end, and then you're going to learn back end. And then there's a little amount of time in between where you're actually going to be working to make a real product, like not a mock product, but actually work for a company and work on a real product. It's called Lambda Labs, I believe. Once I got in and once I started, I already knew the HTML, the CSS, and the basic JavaScript. As of right now, I'm 1 month in. We're actually currently in build week. They give you a week to work with other students that are actually more advanced than you. That's another thing that I found pretty cool, is that you're working with students that are near the end of their Lambda curriculum, so that they're like 8 months in, and then you're working with others that are 6 months and others that are only 1 month ahead of you, because their classes start every 2 months or so. So you're actually, like, every team in a build week is made up of one of those classes. which I find pretty cool because there's some people that are in charge of doing back-end stuff that I haven't gotten to, but I can at least ask questions as to, hey, how's the curriculum looking for this part of the section? And that's something that I was actually seeking, is just, hey, I want to work with other people, see other people's code, collaborate, and that's something that I didn't expect Lambda to have because it's online. But just because it's online doesn't mean that you're not communicating and you're not collaborating with other people. This is just a ramble, so I don't really have anything organized. So for my 1 month, I think I'm doing pretty well. Like I say, I already knew the JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, but I didn't know how to use GitHub, and I did not know about preprocessors for CSS. I knew that Sass was a thing. I didn't really know what it was. So this whole time that I've been learning, I've been actually handwriting CSS line by line, as opposed to using a preprocessor that makes your life a million times easier. We also learned how to use Flex. I knew how to use Flex and Grid, but I forgot them at one point. So the curriculum actually makes you learn how to use Flex, display block and inline block, so you know the difference. Even though you're never going to use them, at least you know the difference. First week was dedicated to just HTML and GitHub. Second week was just CSS. Third week was JavaScript fundamentals. And then this fourth week is build week, I believe. And then once we get done build week, once we build that application, my class at least is going to go into learning how to use React. And then from there on, it's going to get more advanced. So this past month was really easy for me. But now is where things are going to get a little bit more difficult because I haven't really had experience with React or any of those components. My 1 month update, I enjoyed it. It's actually an all-day affair. It's becoming a little bit harder to dedicate your entire day to it. I'm in the East Coast, and their schedule is from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And since I'm in the East Coast, it's actually from 11 to like 8 or 9 o'clock or something like that. So I don't really get to see the sunlight that much other than in early morning. And it's winter right now, so the sun actually rises a lot later. So it feels like I'm dedicating a whole day. It feels like I'm back in college, but at least I'm having fun. This is just my 1 month update. If you guys are interested, I can go over the income share agreement with you guys. I read it like 4 times before I signed it. There are some things there that are pretty straightforward, but there are some things that might concern you, such as financial privacy. You have to constantly disclose your documents, even when you're not making payments. The good thing is that everything goes away after the 24 payments or the 5 years. But if you guys want me to go in depth or explain it, just leave a comment down below. And if you're interested in going into a bootcamp, my recommendation is don't go if you don't know absolutely anything. I know there are a lot of boot camps that had students that didn't know anything about programming and they ended up fine. But for the love of God, at least spend 1 month trying to learn on your own. Go to FreeCodeCamp, go to Code Academy, and do the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript portion. And trust me, that's going to help you out a lot, because the hardest thing to do is to adapt your brain and start thinking like a programmer. A lot of the times, these things are actually a lot more simple once you know them. It's pretty obvious, like once you know them, it's simple. But learning them, like the concept behind them, sometimes can be very stressful. And my recommendation is, if whether you go to an online boot camp or in-person boot camp, try to spend some time learning on your own, trying to see if it's the right thing for you. Because if you actually start from scratch in a boot camp, you're going to have a lot of anxiety and pressure. You're going to feel a lot of pressure because everyone around you is going to seem like they're getting it except for you, and you feel like you're falling behind. And then that happens to one of the members of my cohort. This individual felt like he was falling behind, and he ended up actually quitting after the 3rd week. And I felt bad because I feel like he could have gotten it if someone actually explained it. So if you're actually planning on attending any sort of bootcamp, please try to learn on your own. Even if you don't understand everything 100%, if you just know what a variable is, what an array, what a function is, how to do for loops, if you just learn how to do that with JavaScript, then you're going to be set to go into the bootcamp. Trust me, it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches and a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety. I mean, for me, this month was very easy just because I knew those things. Now we're going to move into React, and I don't have to worry about the JavaScript part. I just have to worry about how does React implement features and how to do things with React that use JavaScript. And React is supposed to be simpler than learning vanilla JavaScript. So it's going to be fun, and I can't wait to get started. I'm going to be doing an update every month, so wish me luck, and hopefully my attitude is going to be the same for month number 2, and hopefully I can land a job right after I graduate, because as of right now, I'm just depending on my family members, but I know that the pressure to make money is there, and I need to land a job. Like, that is my main goal. Like, I'm 100% dedicated just because I need that job. I don't need to have like a 6-figure income, but I need to get a job in this field. Even if it's just the bare minimum, because it's a step in the door, and then once you land the job, you can claim you have experience and then move forward and make more money. So hopefully my attitude is going to be the same for month number 2 through 9. If you have any questions, please comment down below. If you want me to make a video about the Lambda School's income share agreement, or if you want me to just talk about certain coding practices that I learned so far, or if you want me to make a basic tutorial, please let me know.